Hello and welcome to this recorded session of the presentation that's been taking place during the drop-in exhibition for the Cirencester Neighbourhood Plan. Introduction on this first slide. I'm Richard Eastham. I'm an urban planner, urban designer, and my practice, Farrier Urbanism, has been appointed by the Town Council in Cirencester to support them producing this neighbourhood plan. And this slideshow and this presentation has been run in real time over the days of the exhibition here in the museum in the town centre. This recorded version's been made available for those that can't attend in person. Today is Thursday, 22nd of February. The exhibition's on tomorrow, Friday, 23rd of February, and also Saturday, 24th of February. So this exhibition, if you're seeing it, this presentation, it's a recorded version of what people who have attended the exhibition have been seeing. So a little bit of background about myself and the project and how Farrier Urbanism has been supporting it. We're an award-winning planning and design studio and we're based in Bournemouth. And we've worked on over 20 neighbourhood plans across the country, and 14 of these plans have now passed referendum. I'll explain in a moment about the referendum process. And we're also involved in strategic planning, city visioning, place plans and town centre regeneration. So that broad experience of urban design and urban planning matters has been important for the work we've done in Cirencester because it involves a lot of the different disciplines. The awards that we've won, one of them we've put on screen here, 2019, we won a Royal Town Planning Institute award for our work on the Lewes Neighbourhood Plan. And the Lewes Neighbourhood Plan has certain similarities with Cirencester, a relatively large town, historic in many of its heritage assets, and also surrounded by beautiful countryside. So we're familiar with some of the challenges that towns like Lewes and Cirencester have been encountering, and that experience has helped us as we've been working with a steering group of volunteers and the town council here in Cirencester. So that's my background and the practice background, Farrier Urbanism, and what we do. This particular slideshow is going to talk about what a neighbourhood development plan is, talk about the current content and status of the Cirencester plan, where we're at in the process, gives you an opportunity to comment on the plan, how you can do that. And for those who've been in the room with me today and tomorrow, it's an opportunity for questions and answers, and maybe you can do that through the consultation platform. So I'm going to start with a quote from history, 1893, Daniel Burnham. He was the chief planner for Chicago. And his quote is, "Make no small plans, they have no magic to stir men's blood." And we like this quote because it's about being inspirational, about thinking boldly, and about being visionary for the future. And I think the steering group of volunteers and the town council in Cirencester have tried to grasp that. They've talked about big ideas and complex ideas that the neighbourhood plan will try and deliver for the people that live and work in Cirencester and the businesses that have their homes here. So the document is visionary, I think. It has got some bold ideas, and we want to know what people think about that at this stage, this consultation phase we're in. But as well as Daniel's quote from 1893, from more recent history, 2011, Steve Quartermain, and he was the government's chief planner at the time neighbourhood planning was introduced. And the quote from Steve is, "Neighbourhood planning, be bold, but don't be reckless." So he says be bold, like Daniel Burnham was saying, but the don't be reckless is because the neighbourhood plan is part of a framework of guidance documents and legislation. There's national planning policy, the NPPF, National Planning Policy Framework, and that's set by central government in London. There's also local planning policies set by Cotswold District Council, primarily through the local plan and other documents set by the District Council. And then we've got the neighbourhood plan prepared by community volunteers and also the town council. And the neighbourhood plan can't be reckless because it must conform in being general conformity with all the different regulations and different documents that sit alongside it and above it. So our job, Farrier Urbanism and myself, has been steering the group through that network of different documents and spaces to make sure that it meets the regulations and it has those bold ideas in it, but it also will meet the tests that it will have to pass, and I'll explain about the tests in a moment. But the third quote that we think is very important is from Jane Jacobs. And Jane is a journalist, author and activist, and writing in 1961, she did this really powerful quote, really. "Towns and cities have the capability of providing something for everyone only because and only when they are created by everyone." And at the heart of neighbourhood planning, unlike other parts of the planning system, is the need to engage and reach out and listen to different parts of the community to find out what they want from their towns and cities. And in this instance, what they want from Cirencester. And what Cirencester offers today is because it's responsive to the people that live and work here. And the steering group and the town council here in Cirencester have done a lot of work reaching out to different groups, different organisations to find out what they want. We've reached a point in the process now where the document that's out for consultation seems to be very responsive to what that research revealed. And it comes back to this quote that they work best when they're created by everybody. So the next few slides are a little bit wordy, but they're worth talking about in terms of what an NDP does and doesn't do. An NDP is important, development plan, that's what the D stands for. It's a neighbourhood plan is a document that sets out planning policies for a defined local area, and they were introduced through the 2011 Localism Act, and the regulations came in the following year. And it's an important and powerful tool that gives communities a statutory power to shape how their communities develop. And I'm just going to pause on that point B here. The statutory nature of a neighbourhood plan is important. Prior to the 2011 Localism Act, town and parish councils did not have the ability to write statutory binding plans. All their guidance documents, maybe a parish plan, a village design statement, an action plan, while they were very well intentioned and lots of great ideas in them, they didn't have the statutory power that an NDP will have. And that's why they're so powerful. They are part of that framework of statutory documents. Point C, it's used to decide whether to approve planning applications, including new buildings and changes to existing buildings. The document that will be used to say yes or no to planning applications in the future will be the neighbourhood plan. Along with national policy and the local plan, the neighbourhood plan will have a role to play in determining planning applications. So not only are they a visionary document, they have a functional role to play in the system. They're a test against which ideas will be judged in future. And the last bit, the Jane Jacobs quote, which is important here, is written by the local community, the people who know and love the area, to ensure the community gets the right type of development in the right place. The author of the neighbourhood plan, in a technical sense, is the town council, Cirencester Town Council. They're the qualifying body that have the abilities through the Localism Act to do this document, but it's on behalf of the local community with very direct input in the writing of that plan by the local community. So what can an NDP control? Well, it's primarily about the use of development and land, but it also can contain a vision, aims, planning policies, proposals for improving areas and providing new facilities, or the allocation of key sites. In the Cirencester case, it is not allocating sites for housing development. That's a responsibility left to the local plan. It's prepared by the district council, but the neighbourhood plan will contain vision and aims and policies on other matters. Point B on this slide, a wide range of social, economic, environmental issues such as housing, employment, design, heritage and transport. Or a neighbourhood plan may focus on one or two issues only. In Cirencester, the ambition of the steering group and the town council has been really admirable. They've gone for all of the topics. You'll find chapters on design, employment, local economy, heritage, transport. They've really built together an extensive document. It stands at 109 pages now, and that's a testament to the level of detail and the breadth of coverage that they've put together. Point C on this slide, it can specify policies and guidance on how new development should be designed, orientated and located. There's a section in section 7 on design checklist, a checklist for architects and developers about how they should design their buildings in the town moving forward. And to conclude, with all of this ability and all of these tools within a neighbourhood plan, they are a powerful tool in shaping development in a neighbourhood area. So we talked earlier in those two quotes about being bold but not being reckless, and that not being reckless is because a test, there are a series of tests in fact that an NDP must meet. So once it's complete, it will be submitted to the local planning authority, in this instance the district council in Cotswold District Council, and then it'll be subject to an independent examination. And the examination is designed to ensure that the proper legal processes have been followed and that the plan meets the basic conditions. Following that independent examination, any necessary modifications will be made to ensure legal requirements are met. And then the neighbourhood plan will be subject to a public referendum. And that referendum needs 50% of those voting to vote yes to bring the plan into force. But there's no minimum turnout, there's no threshold of requirement about who can vote in terms of numbers based on the electoral roll. You just need that 50% plus one. And if successful, it will become part of the statutory development framework plan for the area. And the statutory nature of that, just referring back to some of those other slides, is really powerful. It will have the same gravitas, the same weight, material consideration in the planning system as other documents. And that's a really powerful thing for a town council to do. So what steps are needed to prepare a plan? Well, first of all, you've got to define your area, the plan boundary, step one, and that's the same boundary as the town council boundary. Step two, the research, the engagement, drafting policy, the diagrams, the maps, all of that material that needs to be undertaken, talking to different community groups and putting it all together in one place. Then step three, which is where we're at now, the big yellow stripe across on this slide, 6-week minimum formal consultation, known as the Regulation 14 consultation, and that's run by the Town Council on the draft version of the plan. This video recording has been prepared specifically for this Regulation 14 milestone in the process. On March the 17th, that's the closing date, 2024, for all comments during that 6-week regulation. We then move to step 4. All those comments received will be considered by the Town Council and the steering group, and they'll decide what to revise, what to change, what to keep, and how the plan will be updated based on what people tell us. Once that new version of the plan is in place, it'll be submitted to the District Council, and the District Council will run a 6-week consultation, known as Regulation 16, and that will allow people to see the difference between the draft plan at Reg 14 and the finalised plan at Reg 16, what changes have been made, what's kept, and what the differences are. Straight after that, there'll be an independent examination, and the examiner will be appointed. The examiner, typically he or she is a retired or semi-retired planning professional that's worked in the sector for a long time, and their job will be to look at the Regulation 16 comments, the revised plan, and check all of that against the regulations. Has the legal process been followed properly? Are there any policies in that Regulation 16 submission plan that conflicts in a fundamental way with national planning or local plan policies? If the examiner finds that the neighbourhood plan's good and it's met those tests, they'll recommend a referendum. And the referendum is a vote on the final version of the plan by local people. And as I said, if the referendum's won, the plan is a legal document, a statutory document that has real material weight for the next maybe 10 to 15 years ahead. And what has gone on in the plan to get this far? I mentioned that earlier slide section 2 in that sequence of steps to get to a neighbourhood plan is drafting the plan, and that's a really important part of the process. A lot of work goes into getting to this stage that we're at now, Reg 14, the pre-submission version. And in March 2020 there was early community engagement via questionnaire, and of course we had the pandemic and the lockdown around that time as well, which meant the rest of 2020 was very difficult to engage with the community. Thematic groups were developing specific policy ideas and project ideas. In the spring of the following year, with digital groups on Zoom. April, June of that year, we worked with colleges and youth groups and local schools to find out what they were interested in, really talking to a younger demographic. There was a progress report in the summer of that year. In the autumn of 21, there was more refinement of the ideas and based on the feedback we'd received. Into the winter, there was a drop-in exhibition held in the museum in the town centre, talking about the town centre master plan. Across 2022, chapters were drafted and coordination was held with that TCMP, the town centre master plan that the district council was looking at, very much the focus around the middle of Cirencester town. Spring and summer of 23, we had a consolidated draft that was being reviewed by the steering group and the town council. Into the autumn of last year, plans, maps and diagrams were added. And finally, in the beginning of 2024, desktop publishing and the launch of the Regulation 14. Slightly obscured behind my face here, it says the commonplace platform. That's the online way that you can comment, which I'll talk about at the end of this recording. So a lot of work's gone on, the best part of 4 years, but that's not uncommon for a project as complex as this in a town as large and as rich in heritage and history as Cirencester. This work is really important to get all the necessary components in place. What will follow from Reg 14 onwards can happen quite quickly, and the finish line of the referendum could happen later this year if all goes to plan. So the more comments that are received between now and March the 17th, the easier it will be to revise the plan and get it submitted ready for examination and referendum. And these are the ideas that were in the progress report, summer 2021 it was. Ideas about walkable neighbourhoods, about the residential suburbs and how they relate to green spaces, about how the town centre could be improved, about mobility hubs and better connections. A lot of the ideas that have made the draft plan today have their origins in discussions with community groups and the town council about issues and ideas that would make Cirencester a better place to live, work and visit. So these extracts are from earlier documents. The town centre master plan has been talked about for some time. It's an element within the local plan, and the neighbourhood plan has reflected that too. So this dotted line on this diagram is the area defined by the local plan, considered the town centre. The buildings in a dark colour are the museum, the St John Baptist Church, the Bingham Library, police station, those landmark buildings in the town centre. And we took this diagram, this map out with these little symbols, and one of the engagement events we did with college students was getting them to place little tokens onto the map to redesign a town centre. What would they like to see? More tree planting, more retail, more leisure activity, how you may move car parking around to make it more accessible. These were sort of some of the engagement events that we ran over the course of the preparation phase to get ideas into both the neighbourhood plan, and we fed these ideas back to the district council too, to help inform the local plan and the town centre master plan that's being consulted upon in parallel with the neighbourhood plan. The neighbourhood plan boundary is this red line here. The content of the neighbourhood plan must deal with only things inside that boundary, and that boundary line is the same boundary that the town council uses as its administrative boundary. So issues outside of that red line cannot be dealt with directly by the neighbourhood plan, and it's important to remember that any policies will relate to that central section. And one thing that's really important, I think, from an outsider's point of view, as I say, I'm based in Bournemouth and we've worked all around the country, but when we come to a new place to work with a town centre project like this, but also a neighbourhood plan project that deals with a wider area, one thing that struck us is the relationship between the landscape around Cirencester and the town centre. A very compact town centre, and we'll discover in a moment with its Roman origins, and how that the suburban 20th century part of the town has a relationship with landscape around it. But when you're in the middle of town in Cirencester, you never feel too far away from landscape. On the eastern side here, you've got Abbey Grounds and the woodland that connects right into the back of the St John Baptist Church there. You walk around the back of the church, you're into the Abbey Grounds as well. Over on the western side of town, you've got Cirencester Park, that beautiful sort of formal landscaped driveway that takes you right into the middle of town, the white arrow there on the right hand side of the slide. And then you've also got smaller green spaces, the amphitheatre just north of the Chesterton development, and the strategic allocation of housing that's going to be built out over the years ahead down in the southwestern part of the town. And the beaches, Kings Hill and the Love Lane employment area have connections to that town centre. City Bank is the green space shown there. So there's some parts of the town centre that don't have ready access to green space, but the town centre itself has these sort of strategic connections to the landscape that runs right into the middle of town, and that context is important. Just looking at how the town has developed over time, I think it's important to understand the origins of it. The green and blue infrastructure, the River Churn in blue, Abbey Grounds and Cirencester Park are the sort of components of the town. And the Roman town, and there's maps like this that you can find in the museum in the town centre. The grid of streets the Romans introduced, that you can still see that the darker coloured streets on this diagram are still there today. Quern Lane and Lewis Lane that run to the amphitheatre. The yellow buildings, the amphitheatre, theatre, the forum, the market, these civic buildings and landmarks that give legibility to the town grid. And the Romans wrapped that with the city walls, some of which still exist today in the darker colours, and the gates that allowed access in and out of that defensive settlement, the Roman town of Cirencester all those years ago. We fast forward now to the Victorians, and they brought the railways in. The railway lines sadly have now gone, but the red dots on this plan were where the stations used to be. The Brunel station building, just on the other side of Sheep Street, still exists today, standing in that slightly forlorn bit of land just outside the town centre there. The town centre neighbourhood plan looks at how that could be repurposed for transport interchange uses moving forwards. The conservation area is marked on this map as well, that tinted area on this diagram. Buildings were now developed and suburban areas and town centre living, the Victorian suburbs, that really have a quality that is deserving of protection, and conservation area status extends beyond the Roman town, which is important to recognise. We move to the 20th century, and I think the Romans did a good job with the walls around the town, but the highway engineers of the 20th century have done an even better job. The A429 really wraps tightly around the town centre, and we found, talking to people and our own analysis of Cirencester, is that really puts quite a difficult barrier to cross around the town centre. Cirencester town centre is full of beautiful buildings, shops, cafes, great public squares, lots of activity, cultural activity, economic activity and social activity, people meeting each other in the town centre. All of that's really worth going to explore and experience, but getting in and out of town is very difficult because of the ring road around the edge. There's only limited crossing opportunities if you're on foot or by bicycle, so people choose to drive in, which puts pressure on the car parks and makes the roads very busy. And you can see from this diagram that the grey buildings, the tinted grey buildings, show that the footprint of the residential areas, the beaches, Kings Hill, Chesterton and Love Lane and Stratton to the north of this. These people live within walking distance of the town centre, but the experience of walking in and out can be quite unpleasant and quite difficult. The neighbourhood plan group, the steering group, the volunteers, the community volunteers and the town centre, the town council, I think admirably they've grappled with this. They've really looked in detail at what we can do. What powers does the neighbourhood plan have to make those suburban areas outside the ring road perhaps more self-contained, so they can have facilities and features that mean people don't have to come into town very often? Maybe some small grocery shops or community halls or pubs and cafes in the suburbs that makes them more complete neighbourhoods. Alternatively, can we make walking and cycling into the town centre an easier and more pleasant thing to do by breaking that ring road more often and in more places to make walking and cycling a more attractive proposition? The chances are the answer is going to be both. We need to improve those suburban areas, make them more self-contained and make access better. These aren't easy things to do, and I think it's to the credit of the town council in Cirencester and the volunteers it's worked with that it's tried to deal with these issues. And there's chapters in the neighbourhood plan which I'll explain in a bit more detail where they try and deal with that. And we want your help through your comments on this Reg 14 pre-submission consultation draft to find out more about what we can do. So that takes us to the plan itself. This is the front cover, and this next part of the presentation, the final bit really, is to just talk you through some of the things you'll find when you look through the document. As I said at the beginning, it's an extensive piece of work, 109 pages, but that's testament to the ambition of the town council and the people that have contributed through the steering group to make it give it as much coverage as it can have. The breadth of coverage and the depth of coverage is really quite significant. So if you are going to read the whole thing, set aside some time, make a cup of tea, maybe more than one, and try and read it all and try and get a sense of what it's trying to do. But it's also broken down into sections and chapters that allow you to comment on the individual bits. And these are the sections. 12 key sections: the context, the history of the town, the Cirencester of tomorrow, what it wants to be like, the aims and ambitions of the project, how we prepared the plan, what those aims and objectives are. Section 5, the town centre bit. We start in the middle and work out. It's really important to get that town centre right. And what I talked about earlier is a master plan being developed. The local plan talks about the town centre as prepared by the district council, and the neighbourhood plan as prepared by the town council all need to be coordinating around that. And there's been a lot of work going on to coordinate these things and make sure they fit together and support one another. So you'll find more detail in the master plan consultation. Perhaps there'll be other types of detail in the local plan, and section 5 in the neighbourhood plan does its thing around the town centre as well. Access and movement, section 6, how we get around, those challenges that the ring road presents and others as well. Section 7, design and built environment, the quality of environment. There's a fabulous architectural legacy in Cirencester. How can contemporary development, modern development and future development match the quality that we've managed to produce in the past in this part of the world? Quality public realms, section 8, the streets and spaces between the buildings, just as important, in many ways more important. They're the spaces that bring people together, create community atmosphere and a sense of place. We need positive public spaces that create the quality of life people want, not just the buildings, but the gaps in between. The 20-minute neighbourhood. This is a really important thing. It's chapter 9. And this is about the idea of trying to make more self-sufficient neighbourhoods by introducing some of the missing facilities in the suburban areas that maybe mean people have to travel more often than they'd like. In no way is it about restricting people to where they live. The choice will always be there to move to other places, but people do like the opportunity to walk to shops, maybe walk to places from where they live, rather than having to drive further afield. Chapter 9 tries to deal with that. Chapter 10, the natural environment, the green spaces that support all of this, and number 12, well-being and community. And I'd like to say, please don't be misled around these things coming towards the end, because I think they're really important. And I've just missed out there is number 11, local economy, also really vital. The green spaces, the economic activity and the well-being of people, 10, 11 and 12, are really what it's all about. The quality of life, what it's like to live, run a business, work, visit and play and have fun in Cirencester. The last part of the plan is really focused on that, but the sequence of chapters beforehand tries to set out how we get there. There's also a series of appendices that are worth looking at in more detail. We open with a vision statement. I'm not going to read it all out now. You can pause the video to read it if you want, but the vision statement sets out what life will be like in Cirencester between now and 2033. What the quality of life will be like, the types of activity, and it sets a future-facing vision. We need to know if we've got this right. Please let us know through the comments what this does. Is it correct? We don't want it to be too wordy, and I know the steering group and the town council agonised over this. There's been many drafts to try and get it right. We think we've got something that is responsive to the different positions and points of view, but do take a look at that and see if it's the right sort of opening statement around which and from which everything else follows. Chapter 1, that context, where the town has come from its Roman origins and even before, right through to the present day. Chapter 2, the Cirencester of tomorrow. What is the future going to be like here? What will it be like to live, work and visit? Chapter 3, what we did to get this far, the preparation of the plan, who we've engaged with, how we've done it. In the plan today, in the current draft, this is fairly light touch. It's just a sort of an overview of what went on. Later on, there will be a more detailed consultation statement, it is called, that captures all of the comments and exactly what went on. But the preparation is important. This didn't come out of nowhere. There's been a lot of really detailed, significant amount of work, really good quality work done by the steering group and the town council to get this far. And section 3 sets out what's happened. The aims and objectives, chapter 4. What is it that the plan seeks to do? What will make Cirencester better? What are the benchmarks, really, I suppose? What are the outcomes that this document is trying to achieve? And over the plan period, these aims and objectives will be used to test the effectiveness of the plan. Are these correct? I think there are 14 aims and objectives. Are they the right ones? Have we got them correct? Are there missing ones? Do you agree or not? There's a key question for you to answer when you see chapter 4. Town centre. This is where we talk about the issues that relate to the middle of Cirencester and how that relates to the local plan and the town centre master plan. The level of detail in this chapter is necessarily at a relatively high level because the master plan will be picking up some of that detail moving forwards. But this coordinates with what the master plan is going to talk about. And in that section 5, you will find this diagram. This looks at the town centre and breaks it down even further. The northern quarter around Blackjack Street and that medieval street pattern. Old Station, the bright blue over to the left where the Brunel station building is. Brewery Quarter, the Tesco car park, Brewery Arts. Some large spaces there that potentially could be redeveloped in the future. Sheep Street down to the south there in the bright pink colour. The little yellow tinted bit just missing off the plan, there's a Phoenix industrial quarter that is a potential link between the amphitheatre, Querns Lane and Lewis Lane, and how that might in future start to provide a connection with that Roman amphitheatre and the rest of the town. Interestingly, the amphitheatre was outside the Roman walls. It was never within the Roman walls. The Forum, that large purple area, large surface car park, 20th century buildings in there as well, the police station, the back of the Dyer Street development from the late 20th century as well onto Dyer Street, and across the road there into the Waterloo area where there's a surface car park, and again out to the River Churn behind. You can see the blue line that takes you back to Abbey Grounds and how you may walk round back to St John the Baptist Church and back into the middle of town. Cricklade Street running right between the brewery and the Forum there. The town centre master plan, I think rightly, is thinking about these different character areas within what is a relatively small town centre anyway. But Cirencester is really rich in terms of its medieval history, its Roman history, its 20th century history. And the neighbourhood plan describes each of these quarters and districts in some detail. And that sets the scene for the types of development and redevelopment that may go on in these quarters responsive to these areas. I think that variety is really important, and Cirencester has a lot to play with here, which is important. So that diagram relates to the town centre and its future. Access and movement, chapter 6, how do we get around? Electric cars, but electric cars still take up room. You've got to park them when you get to the end of your journey. How much room do we need for parking? How do we get cars into the middle, or do they come into the middle at all? Cycling, walking, and all of those challenges around the ring road and so on. Chapter 6 deals with it. Again, a note of caution here. The neighbourhood plan can only do so much regarding transport, access and movement matters. The county council, the local cycling and walking infrastructure plan, the LC WIP as it's known, that deals with projects that deliver the changes on the ground. The neighbourhood plan's a policy-based document which will set some broad ambitions, but details around policies on the details around the delivery and the implementation of policies will perhaps take place in other areas of work from the county council and the district council as well. But chapter 6 deals with access and movement. Design built environment, we talked about the rich legacy of Cotswold stone and some beautiful architecture in this part of the world which it's famed for. And the photography you'll find throughout the neighbourhood plan really celebrates that really well. Each of these images you see on screen are the opening chapters for the different sections in the plan. This sets out not a prescription about what should happen, but the way we've written this chapter is to put the responsibility on architects and developers that are active in the town, for them to do their research, for them to work out the right response in the right locations. And there's a design checklist in here that gives them an indication of the things that matter and the things they need to do well. So the actual proposals for design are reliant on the applicant, but the document here gives them a really clear sense of what's important. We'd like your comments on that checklist. The streets and spaces, I mentioned this earlier, the gaps between the buildings are just as important, if not more important, perhaps, in terms of the social life, the community life of the town. So what makes a good street? What makes a good space? Have we got the balance right between traffic, between people, between the paving, the details of that? So chapter 8 looks at streets and spaces, and it also looks at the views that people get of that church tower, which is so important to the identity of Cirencester. This diagram is one of many that you'll find in the document, setting out strategic viewpoints, often from outside the plan boundary, but we don't want those views to be interrupted. We don't want development to change those views in a way that's very negative. We don't think there's a real and immediate threat to that, but now's the chance through the neighbourhood plan to get a diagram down, to describe why those views are important and make sure they're protected for the next generation. Another important section here is the non-designated heritage assets. Now these are features, built environment features that maybe aren't as important as listed buildings, the conservation area, scheduled monuments of protection that benefit from national designation, and there's many such buildings across Cirencester that are deserving of national protection. The neighbourhood plan is allowed through the legislation to find that second tier of heritage asset that hasn't yet got protection and use the neighbourhood plan powers to give it that non-designated protection. This plan shows all of them. One of the appendices has a photograph of all of them and a description about why they're considered important. We really want your views. Are there anything out there that we've forgotten or overlooked or just not aware of that need that level of protection? Are the ones in that diagram that we see on screen now that perhaps aren't worthy of protection? We also like a view on that. But the steering group's done a huge amount of work tracking down all of these important features that are yet to be given protection, and the neighbourhood plan is offering that protection through the non-designated heritage system. The 20-minute neighbourhood, this is the thinking, it's a theory, an urban planning, a town planning theory about trying to bring to people where they live the facilities and features they need on a daily or weekly basis. And by creating neighbourhoods that have those features, people perhaps don't have to drive as often. They can stay close. They can perhaps get more of a relationship with local businesses and traders and know their neighbours more. There's lots of psychological, environmental and social benefits about having neighbourhoods that have a mix of uses in them, not just living, but play, community, education, shopping, retail, and all sorts of pubs and cafes as well. This won't be possible everywhere, but it's an opportunity for the group, and I think they've done a huge amount of really interesting analysis work to try and work out which bits of Cirencester are more complete and which bits of Cirencester perhaps could benefit from the introduction of non-residential uses to make them more attractive for people, that they don't have to drive everywhere to access them. This will not prevent people travelling if they wish. It's just an opportunity to give them that choice. There's two diagrams in here, perhaps not as successful as we would have hoped, and the one on the left here is it's a software generated diagram. We use some software to say, well, what is within reach of different parts of the town, and the blue sort of irregular shapes try and show what you can reach within 20 minutes of where you live. And the diagram on the right here is a sort of companion document, a simplified version of that. The 8 or 9 neighbourhoods of Stratton, the Beeches, Kings Hill, Steadings, and the strategic development that's happening at Chesterton, which we think is going to be big enough for at least 3 different neighbourhoods, 2 of which have yet to be built out. If we think about Cirencester as a series of interlinked neighbourhoods, and the town centre sits right in the middle of that, are there enough facilities in these outlying areas to provide people the quality of life where they may come into town at the weekend and only need to come in at the weekend? That doesn't mean they can't come in the day, but by coming in and out in different ways, maybe on foot and by bicycle, or by shopping local and staying local, as people often did during the lockdown of 2020 and 21, that did reveal what facilities were available to people a short walk from where they live. And I think it's to the credit of the Town Council and the steering group that they've been ambitious enough to test this out. We know this isn't as complete or as clear as it needs to be. We need more input. So any comments you have on this model and how we can refine it and make it more legible and introduce the things that we need in the right places, we'd really welcome feedback on that. The natural environment, chapter 10. We know this is the amphitheatre. It's got a human impact to it. It's not entirely natural, but green spaces really matter, and the bits between the buildings that are green are really important. And you'll find in this section a diagram, and it's this one. One of the provisions in the neighbourhood planning legislation from 2012 is to identify green spaces and give them a statutory protection known as local green space designation. The steering group's reviewed all of the green spaces across the town. Some of these already have protection. And again, like the views, there's no immediate threat or risk of loss, but it's an opportunity to provide a level of protection over and above those that may already exist to make sure that these are secured over the longer term. And there are certain tests that must be passed for a local green space to be approved. And the examiner will look at those tests about they can't be an extensive tract of land, they need to be in close proximity to the community and demonstrably important. We believe these meet the tests. The examiner will be the ultimate person to decide on that, but we want your views. Are there green spaces that this map doesn't contain that you think should be included? Or indeed, if you're a landowner or someone that has an interest in the town and believe that there's green spaces here that aren't deserving of protection, let us know and let us know why. But that diagram is in the appendices, and each of the spaces has its own position in the appendices with more detail about why it's considered important. Please take a look at that and let us know. Along with the non-designated heritage assets, local green space designation is one of the specific levers that the neighbourhood plan has to pull on protections. And I think it's to the credit of the Town Council they've taken both of these opportunities available to them to do something with it. The local economy. This is really obviously vital to the well-being of the town. A sustainable economy, often based around tourism today in the 20th century, but the wool trade and all of the different economic models that over the centuries have played out in Cirencester leave us with this rich legacy of a town with active ground floors, people living above the shop, small shop units that work really well today. What type of economy do we have in future? What skills do we need? Chapter 11 talks about all of that. And it pulls together into chapter 12. And I said earlier, this might be the final chapter, but it's by no means the least important. In some ways, it brings it all together. The quality of life that people have, health, well-being, that sense of community. And we know, having worked with the team here in Cirencester for some time, what a really strong spirit there is around the town, both in the outlying areas, how they feel attached to Cirencester and its identity, and the businesses and activities that happen in the middle. The neighbourhood plan is a sort of sequential series of chapters that build up, and we hope that the policies in chapter 12 do it justice, really, about improving the quality of life moving forward for people that live and work in Cirencester. How do we comment? Well, there's an online platform called Commonplace. This QR code will take you straight there. Each of the 12 chapters has its own section, so you can comment on the bit that really matters and leave no comments on the rest. Ideally, we'd like your comments on all of it, but you don't feel obliged to do that. If you've got an expertise in a certain area, we'd love to hear more detail on that. I'm sure we've got lots of things we can get right and get better from that more qualified point of view. If you're just a resident or someone that has an interest in the town, please let us know. If you live outside the boundary, that does not prevent you putting comments in. We'll take all of the comments in really seriously. We want to know as much as we can from as many people as we can about the content of the plan as it is today. So Commonplace is the way to do it, because digitally we'll capture all of that and get a sense of what's going on, what's right, what needs to be improved, and how the steering group, going back to the process chart, will revise the plan to move to the next stage, which is submission, then examination and referendum. This video has been recorded on the 22nd of February, which is Thursday. So there's a QR code on stage 1. Stage 2, the exhibition event, is today, 22nd, tomorrow 23rd, and Saturday 24th of February. The consultant, Farrier Urbanism, that's Richard's here. I am talking to you. We're in the museum. This video will go online for those that cannot attend the presentations that are taking place over the next few days. The printed copies and a paper version of the plan are available at the Town Council offices. So if you prefer to look through an old-fashioned print copy, the Town Council can provide that at the library as well. And that will give you a chance to look through it all. As I say, it's 109 pages, testament to the ambition of the steering group volunteers and the Town Council. It's a really good read. I'd like you to read all of it and let us know what you think. Thank you for watching all of this. If you've got to this far to the end, it's been a really challenging project to work on, but a really rewarding one too. It's such a special place, Cirencester, and I think protecting it and nurturing it and moving it into the future, it's been a real privilege to work with the Town Council team and all of the community volunteers that have put in their time and work to get this far. And comments received now will really count and make a difference to the future. So I'll just say thank you for sticking with the video, and thank you for all of the contributions this far and for your comments in advance at this stage, crucial stage in getting the plan into this position and moving forward to the next stage as well. Thank you very much.